Hi everyone, I'm Chef Susie with Escoffier Online and thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be making bûche de Noël, which is the Christmas Yule log. It's super nice time, super nice dessert for this time of year. You'll be sure to impress your friends and family if you make this. It's really easy. We're going to be making the cake roll, which we've already done, and you can find the recipe and the video in the archives. So I'm just going to show a little bit of the assembly and get you started. And please let me know throughout the session if anyone has already made the bûche de Noël, the Christmas Yule log, and maybe some of your variations on it too. So knowing that, let's get started. So I've got my roulade sponge, which I made last night. You can make this ahead of time if you need to. And you can just wrap it up in plastic like I've done here. I stored it right on the pan that I baked it on. And I just went ahead and I wrapped it up really good. I powdered sugared it first because that helps with sticking. We had a little bit of moisture, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over this again with the powdered sugar. Don't put too much on because you want your icing to stick. And then it's ready to go. Then we're going to go ahead and invert this because we're going to be taking the paper off the bottom. Okay, so do we have any questions? Okay, so it's okay that we had a little bit of sticking and a little bit of moisture because we're just going to be icing this anyway, so it's no harm done that a little bit of the skin came off and it wasn't perfect. What's the important thing is that it's flexible and remained flexible, and there wasn't any over baking. When you have a little over baking, you'll have a little bit of crispness, and you want this to be flexible so you can roll it and roll it nicely too. So no worries if you have a little moisture when you're storing these. Okay, so I'm just inverting this and I'm peeling the paper off. So the way I showed you is probably the best way to store this, right on the pan. Okay, do we have any questions so far on anything? Okay, so what we're going to do today is I'm just going to be filling this with a little bit of chocolate buttercream that I made. You can fill this with so many things. If you want the log effect, you're going to want to stay with maybe something brown, maybe some ganache or fudge and a little chocolate buttercream like I'm doing today. What's nice is this is the buttercream from your buttercream assignment. And I've just added some cocoa to this to darken it up. And just add however much you want. Start with a half a cup and sift it. And then if you want it a little bit darker, just go ahead and add some more. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure that your buttercream is nice and soft so it spreads easily over the cake and you don't have any pulling or tearing. And you're going to want to put just a thin layer, maybe like about 1/8 of an inch. And see, I'm just spreading this gently. Definitely, if you see any tearing or sticking, you're going to want to stop. And it could be because your filling is a little too thick and it's a little too hard on this delicate roll. So if that's the case, if you're not spreading as easily as I am here, you're going to have to slow down and just do a little bit at a time. But these are super fun because you can make so many variations. And no worries, even though you're making a Christmas log, you don't particularly have to stay with the brownness on the inside. Even like a nice red raspberry jam or strawberry jam or even apricot, that'll look nice as well. So definitely be creative with your Christmas Yule logs and let me know how you're doing. And we have a question. Okay, we have a question. Is the cake recipe on the site? It is. You'll see it in the archives. If you can't find it, just give me a call and I'll send it over to you or send me a message. And it's something that we've made a few times before. This is something that's made often in a pastry kitchen, especially a commercial kitchen, because you can do so many things with these rolls. As you can see, we're going to make the Christmas Yule log. And you can do just cake rolls for your everyday buffets. Even breakfast buffets are nice, and fill them with a variety of jams and variety of colors and finishes as well. So definitely have a good time with your cake rolls. Okay, so what I like to do for the side that I'm going to roll, I roll away. You can roll towards you if you like. I like to roll away from me because then it's closer to me. I can see what I'm doing. But whatever your preference is, it's okay. So I trimmed off the end so I have a nice clean start, and that's going to give me a nice spiral. So I'm just rolling this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to push up this lip to start the roll. You can roll on parchment, you can roll on a towel, or you can just roll by hand like I'm doing today. Excuse me. Like I said, it's your personal preference, and your creativity in your kitchen is really your own. So everyone has their own way of doing things and cooking in their own style. So be sure that you're exploring that, because we are teaching you a lot of recipes at the school, but we're not just teaching you recipes, we're teaching you skills and learning and exploring flavors, tastes, textures, styles, your way of doing things. So always keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm just rolling this. I've got a little bit of cracking, and that's okay. I probably had a little bit of thickness in the roll. So sometimes if you're seeing cracking, that could be from the cake being a little too thick or some over baking. But typically when you get to the end and the roll gets bigger, you're almost always going to have a really smooth finish. No worries if you don't. You can always cover it up with some icing, right? Okay, so this is our roll. Super simple. And we have another question.
Could they use the sponge cake recipe instead of the roulade?
Okay, we have a question. Can you use the sponge cake recipe instead of the roulade? The sponge cake recipe that you're making, the Genoise recipe, that does work well for this. You're going to want to make sure that you make this thin, but not all cake recipes are as flexible, so always keep that in mind. These recipes typically don't have a leavener in them, and the cakes are typically more flexible. The roulade recipe, for example, we're whipping the egg yolks and the egg whites separate, and it's light and airy. It's going to be really flexible and bendable, and chiffon cakes are often like that too. Start out with this recipe, then explore some other recipes and see how they roll for you. You can also roll your cake warm on a towel, and try that too if you have any cracking with a particular recipe that you like. But be careful not to make your cake rolls too thick, because that'll cause some breaking too. So please explore your rolls and see what cakes roll. It's part of your creativity in the kitchen. It's going to make you as a chef, whether it's a chef just at home, as an enthusiast, as a hobbyist, or a professional, these styles, techniques, and explorations that you're doing are just going to make your cooking and baking style uniquely your own. So always keep that in mind. Let me know if you need any direction with that. So the roll is ready to go. And what I did is I made one earlier and I refrigerated it because we're going to be cutting this a little bit. So definitely refrigerate these before you cut them if you're putting buttercreams or ganaches in them. And do we have any questions on anything? Okay, so here's the roll that I made last night. I filled it and I wrapped it really well. These store perfectly just like this, and you can freeze these as well. They freeze really nice. So this is one of the keys to being successful in a kitchen. When you have a lot to do and you have to make things ahead of time, you have to evaluate the things that can be stored overnight or in the freezer and then pulled out and finished that day. It's going to make you more productive, and it's going to be a much better experience in the kitchen. So like I said, these store great overnight. Wrapped it up really well. They also store great in the freezer too. Okay, so what I did is I put this on a board for safety so I wouldn't bend it. They are pretty sturdy though, and I've wrapped it in plastic. I wrapped it in plastic twice. I'm trying to find the end here. Might have to just cut it. Okay, so under this plastic, just going to cut it off. Sometimes it's the easier way to do it. Okay, so under this plastic, I have the roll wrapped in paper. And I did this because I wanted to show you that this is a nice way to store this in parchment paper. And let's say that you're in a commercial kitchen and you have to make a dozen of these. you can store the rolls like this on the parchment and then just line them up on a full sheet pan, cover the whole thing in plastic. Sometimes you have a plastic bag to bag it in, pop it in the refrigerator or the freezer. So keep this in mind. This is a great way to store these. And once in a while you might have a little bit of sticking. I've got the powdered sugar on here, but once again I've got a little bit of sticking, which is no worries because I'm going to be icing this with buttercream. And as long as I'm careful not to get any of these crumbs, I'll be just fine. So it's been a little humid up this way. We've had some raining and there's humidity in the air. Typically it's very dry this time of year. And the humidity in your air is going to affect things like this too if you're in a warm, humid climate such as maybe Florida. So keep that in mind and no worries. You can make it through any of these little things. This is no big deal. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and ice our Christmas Yule log, our Bûche de Noël, our cake roll. So like I said, I've got the buttercream from our assignment that I made into a chocolate buttercream. And we're just going to be spreading this on the roll. And do we have any questions so far?
Should we cut the ends off before we frost the roulade?
Okay, we have a really good question about the ends of the roulade. Should we cut the ends off before we frost it? I typically cut the end off after I frost it, and that's why I refrigerated it so I can get a nice clean cut. You can cut the end ahead of time, but I prefer to cut mine after I ice this, and then I'm going to get a nice clean cut on it. So we've got a couple of things that we're making a nice holiday dessert out of that we've actually made before, which shows how all of these things in your kitchen that you're making can really marry together. So you're going to learn your basic techniques and then you're going to take it from there. So our buttercream, like we use for our cakes and our cupcakes, perfect for this. You can also ganache these too for a little bit of a different look. You can sprinkle candies on them. You can do so many things. Okay, so do we have any questions? The question is, can you use royal icing instead of the buttercream? You can. Keep in mind, royal icing dries hard, and I mean rock hard, and you got to be careful when you're working with it. You have to work kind of quickly. You can't walk away from it because it can form a skin, royal icing. Two, you have to keep it covered. You can't have your bowl open like I have here. You're going to want to cover that with a damp towel and also some plastic wrap. But the nice thing about royal icing is it does have a bit of a crunch to it. It's a nice texture, so yes, definitely. It might be a little harder to smooth onto the cake, but working it, you'll be able to just take your time. You'll be able to work your way through it. If you're having a lot of tearing, could mean that your icing is just a little too thick. You can thin it down with whatever you've used, your egg white, or if you used a royal icing mix with water, thin it down a little bit. But yep, definitely you can use the royal icing. Something that's super popular this time of year, the royal icing, is great for putting together gingerbread houses. It dries hard, it looks beautiful, it's nice and white for the snow effect. Okay, so we've got our log iced here. So what we can do for finishing this is we can just kind of streak this a little bit and make it kind of bark looking. That's kind of a nice effect if you like this. You can also put some little pieces of chocolate on here. If you spread some chocolate on a pan and let it set up, you can kind of break those pieces off and put that on here for a bark. Otherwise, you can also run the cake comb across it, which I'm going to show you here really quick. Okay, so I have the cake comb from the toolkit, and you can pretty much use any cake comb that you have. They all work pretty much the same. I'm going to use this kind of medium edge, And I'm just going to run this over the cake roll, and you can do this kind of randomly since it is the bark effect, so you don't have to be doing it really perfect. And do we have any questions on anything? Okay, so we had our bark effect with our spatula, or if you have a cake roll you want to use that, that's great as well. Okay, so now we're going to be trimming off the edges, and I've got this white plate that I'm going to present my cake roll on. So I'm going to put the white plate up here because I want to trim enough so my cake roll fits on my plate. And do we have any questions on anything? Okay, so I've got my knife and I'm dipping it in some warm water. I'm making it nice and clean. And we're just going to be trimming off these edges. And you see we have the nice roll inside. I used a little bit of ganache to fill this cake roll with, which is nice for the bark effect. And I did leave that set up overnight, and I can see the ganache is nice and firm. Okay, so since we're doing a log, it's also nice to maybe have like a branch on the outside of this to show the effect and make it look a little more loggy. So what you're going to want to do is kind of cut this on an angle. And then this is the piece that we're going to be adding for a little bit of visual effect for our tree. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this from the cardboard. And we're just going to carefully put it on our plate. Okay, maybe we're going to do it a little offset. And then this, the effect with the branching, you can kind of just put it off to the side a little bit, kind of like that, or you can even put it on the top. So we've got a little bit of an area on the side here that we're going to want to give a little bit of extra icing. And you can place these, the branch parts on the top, wherever you like, whatever suits you. Just have fun with your U-log. It's kind of it's a tree, so you'll have a good time with it. And then we're just going to kind of blend this together with a little extra icing on it. So then we kind of have our log tree effect going on. And like I said, it's bark, it's no tree is really looking the same out there. That's what's nice about these, is they can be a little rustic. Okay, so like I said, you can place those on top wherever they work for you. And do we have any questions on anything? Okay. All right, so now we're going to decorate our Yule log. So this is kind of the fun part. Okay, so what we can do is holly and berry is always a super nice decoration for any Christmas time, holiday dessert. Holly and berry grows outside even this time of year. So what you can do, even if you don't have a leaf tip, you can take some green icing and put it in a paper bag, and you can cut a V with the tip up and then the two sides going off to the side, and you can make your own holly and berry decoration by just doing the leaf effect. And then I have some red buttercream icing with a plain tip. And then you can just do your 3 berries like I'm doing right here. Okay, so that's a super cute, really easy decoration. So let's go ahead and put some holly and berries on our cake roll. And please let me know if you have any questions. And you can also do cutouts with some fondant. We demonstrated the fondant a few weeks ago. So you've got the recipe and you're just doing some leaves, and you're just really, you know, you're adding some color and some holidayness to your cake roll. You can also dust this with powdered sugar, especially If you're doing ganache or a little darker chocolate, it's going to show up really nice. And we have a question.
Someone's asking if you can show them how to make the paper piping bag.
Oh, okay. We have a question about how to make the paper piping bag. I'll definitely show you a quick demonstration on that. Maybe after we clean up, we'll do that. How does that sound? Okay, so I'm just doing my little berries. I mean, how cute, right? Super easy. The buttercream from the assignment just made green and red. And I actually cut the leaf tip if you don't have one. And then I'm just doing my 3 little berries in red. You can put candy canes, you can put Christmas candies on this, however you like. Just have fun with your Yule log. And definitely make it a festive holiday dessert. Okay. So we've got a little buttercream on our plate here. We're going to just wipe it off a little bit. I want to clean that up a little bit. Okay. So another nice decoration for the Yule log is going to be the meringue mushroom. And I've got some here that I made last night, and I dried these out really good. Okay, so this is just a basic white meringue. I just did some egg whites. I used fresh egg whites. Those seem to whip up a little bit better. So it's egg whites and it's sugar, a little bit of salt. You can put a little bit of vanilla, and definitely your cream of tartar is going to help you, it's going to help stabilize and dry these meringues out. So I just dried them in a 220-degree oven for about an hour. These are white ones. Keep in mind that the chocolate meringue that's one of your assignments will also work super well with this. Okay, so I've got some chocolate that I melted earlier, and it's a little set up, but we'll see. I think we can get it to work here for us. Okay, so with the meringues, you're going to want to do a kiss shape for the bottom of the mushroom, and then the top is just a round disc shape that's kind of poofy. I use just a plain tip. You can also cut your bag too. Okay, so these are, you know, no mushroom is perfect, so no worries when you're doing these. So to assemble these mushrooms, you're going to want to make a little hole in the top. And you're really just going to be sticking these together with a little bit of chocolate. So definitely have fun with your meringue mushrooms. You can make these chocolate. You can even make these different colors if you like to. And do we have any questions so far on our meringue mushrooms? So I've got some bottoms here. We'll see if we can get this chocolate to work. Otherwise, we might have to send it to get remelted. Okay, our chocolate has set up a little bit on us, so we need some help from our video photographer to get this melted for us again. So no worries. It's in the microwave. About 30 seconds until it's like fluid-like. Okay, so we're getting our chocolate melted again. So let's talk a little bit more about these meringues. So these mushrooms, like I said, you can use the white meringue, you can use the chocolate from the assignment, and we're going to be assembling these by dipping this in chocolate, and then we're just going to be sticking them together. And you want to dip these in chocolate, just is going to give it the mushroom effect, and it's also going to give it a little bit of a finishing look. So do we have any questions about the meringue mushroom? Okay, yep, we're going to show the piping bag as soon as we're done with this. We'll kind of get ready for these. And do we have any questions on anything, any of the decorations or the recipe itself? We'll be posting the recipe for the meringues, and we'll repost the roulade recipe as well. Okay, great. So we've got our chocolate that's seized up on us. It's been known to happen. So thanks to the crew for helping out. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we're just going to dip the base of this mushroom. Okay, And then we're just going to be sticking it together. Okay, so there we go. And like I said, mushrooms, they're not always the same, so no worries. Have a little bit of fun with them. And this gives the mushroom, like I said, a really nice effect. Finishes it off and it holds it together. And even you don't have to put your tops on straight. You can put them on a little inverted as well. Okay, we'll get one of these little bottoms here. Please let me know how you're doing with your Christmas logs and your mushroom making too. So have fun with these. You're going to impress your friends and family for sure. Okay, so we've got a few mushrooms assembled. Next, we're going to finish these off a little bit, and then we'll be putting these on our Yule log dessert. Okay, to finish your mushrooms, there's a few things that you can do. Okay, you can dust these with a little bit of cocoa powder, and that's going to give it that dark, sprinkly mushroom effect that you see on fresh mushrooms. So just take your one of your shakers or a sifter and put a little bit of cocoa powder in there. Aren't they super cute? They're going to look really nice on our Yule log. You can put these straight up or you can invert them a little bit. We'll put that one there. And maybe we'll have another one right here in the corner. Okay, so another idea for decorating your mushroom tops, which is a little bit more of a whimsical effect, you can put a little bit of dotting with your bread buttercream, which you already have in your pastry bag from your holly and berry decoration. You can also cut out little discs out of fondant, put them on your mushrooms too. This is kind of a little whimsily mushroom effect, and we'll go ahead and put this one on our Yule log as well. So here you have a simply decorated Yule log. It's a really nice holiday dessert. What you can do too also on your plate is you can sprinkle a little bit of this cocoa powder around, just for kind of a finished effect if you like. And like I said, powdered sugar goes nice on here as well. Okay, so this is our Christmas time, holiday season, Bûche de Noël Yule log dessert. Okay, so we're going to set this aside and we're going to kind of talk about the piping bag a little bit. Okay, there's something that I want to introduce you to, which you're going to see in a commercial kitchen a lot, and this is called a pony roll. And this is one of my personal favorite things in a kitchen because you just tear a piece off and you can easily make a bag. So you can make a bag using the triangle shape, or you can just do this pony roll sheet and make your bag like this. So you'll see these a lot in a commercial bakery, and they're super handy to have. So this is typically different from parchment. It's not interchangeable. If you run out of parchment paper, don't use this to line your pans because your stuff is going to stick, okay? So it's a different kind of paper. So for the pony roll, what you can do in a commercial kitchen is you're just going to tear it off, and you'll see pastry chefs doing this all the time. So you'll have a sheet. This is kind of big because usually you're working in bigger quantities. You're going to roll this in the same way that you're doing the triangle. You're going to hold one side, wrap the other side around, and now you have a bag made. It's a little more random, but it's highly productive in a commercial kitchen. So you have a bag made from your pony roll. So let's go ahead and we're going to cut this and we're going to make a triangle shape, and we'll show the classic way that you can make a bag. So whatever is more comfortable for you. Remember, we talked about our own styles and what's working for us in kitchens and what's productive. So keep all of this in mind. And I do recommend the pony roll. Like I said, it's one of my personal favorites. So we're just going to cut out a triangle shape, and we have another question.
Where can they find pony rolls?
The pony rolls are typically available in baking and pastry supply companies. And I'm not sure if you have someplace near you, like a Restaurant Depot, or you might be able to find them online. If you're having a hard time, be sure to contact me and I'll help you do some research in your area. But super easy thing. It's nice to have in a kitchen, and I can guarantee you go in any commercial bakery and you'll see that in a kitchen. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll explore these triangle shapes too. I'm just just bear with me a minute. I'm cutting one out of here. Okay, you can also, for your triangle shape, you can also use some of those parchment papers that you have in your kitchen. The sheet parchment, you can cut these triangles, but once you start using the pony roll, you'll see that it's a little bit easier than cutting the parchment triangles, but you probably want to start with this technique in the beginning. And we have another question.
Is this paper the same as freezing paper?
The question is this paper the same as freezer paper? Freezer paper is it's thicker, but you can use it as well. And I've used it at home when I was making a cake in my kitchen and I wasn't at work and I didn't have my pony roll, so I just pulled off a piece of my freezer paper from my roll and it worked just fine, but it is a little bit thicker, but you can go ahead and use it. Okay, so now we've got our triangle. It's a little rough. So we're going to take the wide end of the triangle and we're going to wrap it around the same way that we did with the pony roll. And we're going to meet at this tip here the best that we can. And we're going to pull our ends tight. Let's do this again. This is one of these things like decorating. It's going to take some practice. That's why canvas bags with tips and plastic bags work well too. It's just a preference, whatever you're doing and whatever you like. So we're going to twist this around and we're going to meet at this tip with all of these points. So this is a good starting point for you. You're going to pull the inside one, and that's really what's going to close up the bag and make it nice and tight like this at the end. So what you're going to do too is you're going to be securing this by folding it over, and this is great for when you're starting. You don't have to worry about your bag unraveling. When you become familiar with making those kind of random tears with the pony roll, you'll be able to feel in the handling that your bag is tight, and it's more of a feel. But in the beginning, definitely start out with these triangles, and then you can secure them by folding them over. So they're smaller, but you can make these larger as well. And if you need any help with your bags, your triangles, your pony roll, your parchment, just be sure to let me know. And if there's no more questions, we're going to be saying our goodbyes, and we'll see you next week. It was lots of fun with the Bûche de Noël, the holiday cake roll. Please let me know how you're doing, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.